Hello everyone, back at it again in my little yellow kayak, and we're going to be doing some topwater fishing this morning. It's actually a little bit later on in the morning. I tried saltwater at two different places and well, it kind of busted out. And so this is plan C. And if I'd known the topwater fishing was going to be pretty good in freshwater and the saltwater was going to be slow, well, I probably would have done this first, but you don't know until you go. So I went, and this is the backup plan. This is actually the backup to the backup plan. Water's a little low, but this is basically a swan pond in the middle of a town center. So it's not really a secret pond. Everybody that lives in town would know this pond. And it gets a fair amount of pressure. It's fairly easy access. Normally I don't fish here in the summer. It just gets hit too hard too often. There's plenty of places off the beaten path I'd rather go to. Plenty of other places to explore. There's two kayakers fishing a little ways away from me. They were doing all right. They were fishing some kind of buzzbait or whopper plopper. I don't know which. I didn't get close enough to be able to tell. But I'm fishing a Arashi Cover Pop. And with these kind of conditions, flat calm, I kind of like a popper better. And the Arashi Cover Pops, it's a unique popper. It's big, and it's big enough to take size 2 hooks, which I like for bigger fish. So it's not a little dinky popper, and I've caught some nice bass on it. I'm actually fishing it on a saltwater rod that I was using, a few hours ago in the salt. The nice thing about it is that it has a short butt, so I'm not whacking myself in the ribs every time I'm popping that popper. The other thing is, I'm walking that popper. At least around me, there are two main ways people fish poppers. They do the slow bloop, 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 and then pause. The other way I see people fish it is they go pop, 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 pause, pop, 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 pause. But I almost see nobody walking poppers. In the rest of the country, walking poppers is fairly common, maybe even standard. But where I fish, generally the fish don't see poppers being walked. I've got a loop knot on the front. It's a Homer Road loop knot. A lot of people shy away from loop knots for a variety of reasons. Some of them are good reasons. In general, the loop knot isn't as strong a knot as a double line knot like a Palomar. But I really like the action that it gives baits, especially poppers and walking baits. So to compensate for the weaker knot strength, I tend to fish heavier leader. And since I was fishing in the salt already, I've got 20-pound mono leader on there. That was for stripers. It'll work plenty fine for largemouth too. So I go up in pound test, and I put a little micro drop of super glue just to make sure that that loop knot doesn't slip out. In case you're not familiar, the Homer Road loop knot is just a slip knot that's jammed with a 2-turn clinch. You could do 3-turn clinch or whatever you want on top of it. But the reason I like it, well, a couple reasons. It's easy to tie. I get a perfect loop every single time. So I get a perfect small loop. And I can tie it in a bouncing kayak. I can tie it in the ocean. I can tie it in the wind. I can tie it, anytime. I can almost tie it blindfolded, not quite. So some of the other loop knots are a little bit more complicated. You've got to pass through certain sections of the knot. Enough about knots. I got my first fish. That didn't take too long. I just launched the boat. Now, he's not a giant, but for a plan C, he's not bad. Let's get some more of those. With the saltwater rod, I can get really good casting distance with that popper. It's a 7.6 TFO rod. but it's got a short butt, so it's actually more like a 7-9 rod because more of the rod is fishable and not in the butt section. And I've got a Shimano Ultegra reel on there, 3000 size with 15-pound braid. So I can really launch that popper across the lake. And it's a very shallow pond. So I don't want to get too close to these fish and have them spook off of me. Now what's that? That doesn't look like a bass. That's a pickerel. Whoever said that pickerel don't eat topwater poppers hasn't met these pickerel, because these pickerel will eat almost anything. With this popper I make a few changes. The first one is I use the loop knot instead of any kind of snap that would come with. Second change is I swap out the stock VMC trebles for owner ST36s. And if I happen to have a red treble, I'll put that on the belly. Again, size 2. And then on the rear treble, I like to use some kind of light crystal flash to dress that treble hook. And generally I'm using chartreuse because around me a lot of the bluegill that I see have chartreuse tails in the water. Some of them might be like a aquamarine color, turquoise. I've seen a few in stained water that have almost an orange tail. But whatever, a lighter colored tail. And so whatever dressed feathered treble that it comes in the package, generally I take that off. I mean, you can fish with them, they're okay. There's nothing wrong with the hooks. They're just kind of okay. They're not super sharp, but they are effective. You can fish it right out of the package. But for me, I like to switch to those owner hooks. I feel like I get better hookups because they're super sharp. And it just works for me. I'm letting that popper sit after I cast it, and then I'll start walking it. Like I said, this place is super shallow. It's pretty much choked with weeds, but the weeds aren't up to the surface yet. So I'm getting away with fishing a bait with treble hooks, and I'm trying to call those fish out of the weeds, or call those fish to the bait. And I got another fish on. It's the right species too. I stuck myself with a hook a few weeks ago, so I'm being a little careful with all these trebles. I don't want to get stuck again. So I'll put them on the lip gripper. Get those trebles out of his face. Try not to hook him again in the process. There he is. Nice little bass. This was the very next cast. Long cast way out there. Slow walking that popper. Trying to call those fish up out of the weeds. Let's see if I can get one to go for it. There he is. He hit it on the paws. You see that? I stopped it. Let that bait just settle there for a second, and he popped it. The downside of crystal flash on the feathered treble on the back treble, the rear treble, is that it doesn't have a lot of action compared to something like marabou or other natural feathers. But it is super durable. It dries fast, so your hooks don't rust. And the fish seem to like it. I like the colors too. Let's get another one. Again, this is just my very next cast. I'm going to start walking that Arashi Cover Pop across the water. To me, it imitates bluegill. That's really what I have in mind with this bait. It's a bigger popper. It's got more body to it. And so there's two colors that really look like a bluegill in the Arashi Cover Pop. One is some kind of natural blue bluegill. Sort of natural anyway. And the other is a green gill. And the other colors, you know, they really don't do anything for me. I'm sure they catch fish. But for me, I'm just imitating bluegill with this bait. That last fish was a pickerel. I'm checking my leader to make sure he didn't nick it or anything. Still seems pretty good. It's 20-pound mono. It's just big game mono. So it's pretty tough stuff. Alright, next cast. Was on a roll here for a little bit. It's not always like this, so gotta make hay while the sun shines, something like that. Walking my popper. That last fish hit it on a pause, so I'm working in some pauses. That one hit it while I was moving, but I think the pause is good. It helps him close the gap. Then he took me into some weeds, and he's gone. I think that was the right species too. Yeah, there's a look at what's down there. It's algae and pondweed and everything all mixed together. It's kind of nasty stuff. At some point in the summer it'll be, you know, all over the surface, and the only way to fish really would be a frog or maybe a weedless creature bait, something like that. Alright, I went one cast without getting any bites. So this is my next cast. I let the popper just sit there for a second before I started my retrieve. I'm making long casts, trying to stay well away from these fish in the skinny water. Giving it a pause. Then back to walking. The loop knot really helps with the walking. You know, a split ring or a snap, it just adds weight to the front. And you still can walk them. I just think it's a little bit easier without the extra weight on the front. Letting it sit again. Something went after it when I started to reel it in. And there he ate it. That was cool. Oh, it's another pickerel. Another pickerel on poppers. I gotta watch my fingers here. Both from the hooks and the teeth. Hold on, Mr. Pickerel. Let me grab you and then I will set you free. Use the pliers to save my fingers. He's thrashing all around. The crystal flash holds up to pickerel better than the stock hooks too. Alright, I turned the boat around, trying to fish in a different direction. Nice big long cast. Keeping that bait well away from the boat so I don't spook any fish. Slow walking it. Left, right, left, right, left, right. For a popper, this bait walks pretty well. Oh, I almost had him. Almost got him on the pause. I got him that time. That could be even the right species too. Gotcha. Nice little largemouth. Off he goes. None the worse for wear. Alright, nice long cast. Start walking the popper, throw in some pauses every once in a while. We've got some late morning cloud cover, and that's really helping me convince them to keep eating topwater. Even though it's kind of late in the morning, topwater bite is pretty decent, and that's really what I think because of the clouds. Not so much anything to do with me. I got another fish. Got him by one hook. Hopefully I can grab him before he throws it. That was a close one. I could have lost him at any point. Yeah, a little better. Alright, that was fun. Let's do that again. Nice long cast. Walking that popper slowly. See if I can get another one to come up. There's tons of pollen on the water. It looks like pond scum, but that's all pollen. I got another one. Oh, he came off. He jumped a little bit and threw that popper. Oof. Alright, I'm losing my cloud cover. You see how the sun's breaking through the clouds there? That's no good. That means my topwater bite is going to be over shortly. But we're going to make the most of it while it lasts. Slow walking that popper. Trying to get a fish to come up out of the weeds and eat it. And I threw in that pause. You see the line go tight? Fish just slurped it off the top of the water there. On the pause. That's the right kind and everything. I only got them by that rear treble again too. That means they're not really eating it terribly well. But I think they are going off after the chartreuse crystal flash tail. That might be helping me get a few more bites on this trip. At least in my head it's working. That one's a little longer, but he's skinnier, I think. Thanks for playing, bud. I think I've got one more for you here. One thing I noticed is that the pickerel tend to eat that popper when it's moving, and the bass tend to eat it when it's stopped. It's not a hard and fast rule, but I got another pickerel on this one, and he's pulling the boat. That means it's a better fish. Anytime they pull the boat, that's a good sign. Had to loosen up my drag a little bit. Now, a bigger pickerel like this, they can saw through 20-pound mono without too much trouble, so I have to make sure that the mono isn't over his teeth. And if he'll settle down just a little bit, and get my grippers on him, unhook him and let him go on his way to go eat more sunfish and whatever else he can eat. I imagine a pickerel that size could eat pretty much anything in this place. Little bass, baby ducks, whatever it wants. He's still thrashing around. Come on, I'll let you go. Just settle down. There we go. Got the popper free. See if I can hold him up. I don't know if he doesn't seem like he wants to pose for the camera, so I'm going to let him go. Well, I've had a good time out here this morning. Not bad for a plan C. That sun is really eating through the clouds now, and my topwater bite is slowing down, and I'm going to pack it up and head for home. Thank you all for watching. Really appreciate it. I'll put all the gear in the video description. Keep in mind, some of this gear is, it's saltwater based because that was my original plan. might not be ideal for freshwater, but I'm going to list everything in the video description so you can duplicate what I was doing today, the baits, the hooks, all that good stuff. And I'll catch you on the next one. See ya!